Acknowledgement of country.
Now start.
You want me to start again, Lisa?
No, it's fine.
Welcome everyone to this June meeting of the Upper Macquarie County Council. First item is acknowledgement of country. Council acknowledgements of traditional custodians of the lands where we work and live. Council celebrates the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of the New South Wales Central Tableland. Members and the public are advised the proceedings of this meeting, other than any confidential matters, will be recorded and made publicly available on the council website when it's up and running, and persons attending the meeting to refrain from making any defamatory statements. Apologies. I have an apology from member Alan Ewan. Are there any other apologies? Do I have someone to move the apology, please? Member Fry, second member Reynolds. All those in favour? Second the apology of Councillor Member Ewan. Thank you. Council members are reminded their obligations under the Council's Code of Conduct to disclose the appropriate managed conflicts of interest. Any member have any declaration? Thank you. Item 3 is the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting on the 12th of May 2023. Can I have a mover for those minutes be accepted?
Can I just
What? Sorry.
Sorry, I've got a comment.
Yes.
Do you want to? I have
Yes.
appear to have not been in attendance, but I've managed to move and second a few things at the meeting.
Yes. And I think, Member Smith, I did notice that
I'm a duplication. I know I'm a big fella, but
you're yes, you're
So
noticed my
twice.
apology, but I thought you were actually on Zoom.
I was here.
Oh, you were.
You'll notice in the attendees on
Twice, yes.
I was in there twice.
So noting those two changes,
Well, we're looking at changes to this third one in the apologies.
yes,
It's Councillor Reynolds, Councillor Leslie and Ewan. Just throwing it, just a small.
or should they be
It's only the
members?
first two.
Just
Is us.
Well, it's
council.
it should be consistent. I don't care which way.
Council.
You see rather than CLR? Yeah.
Oh, and then page 7, section B, there should be a capital on, no, I'm joking, please.
All right. With those, noting those small changes, can we have someone to move those?
I'll move them.
Prior and second, Member Smith. All in favour?
Yeah.
Right. Go to item 4, which is matters in progress update, which is page 13. I have a mover of the recommendation that the council notes the matters in progress update. Member Smith, Member O'Connor, thank you. Discussion on the update, please.
No discussion?
I have my hand raised, Mr. Chair. I'm getting tired. With regard to actions, each constituent LGA has been divided into 3 sectors. The proposed service level agreement for the annual road program goes on, has been finalised with Mac and Mac lawyers, letters, etc. Is it possible to actually look at these 3 sectors? Because I have particular concerns, as in if we have a pretty bad sector, we're not going to be able to cover it in a year. As in, so whether there's a blend of sectors and how you've come up with the sectors to actually have some better country or country that has far less weeds and country that has the rate of tussock in each year if we're going to go to a 3-year program. Hence why I'm asking whether we could have a look at the 3 sectors so that we don't get 1 year, which might be first year or second year or third year, where we can only do half of the program. We're better off to, and in other years we may finish the program or go over.
mean, I suppose one of my comments was, should we, what's status of the service level agreements, as if they've already been drafted? They're all basically identical, except for the different.
One agreement going to three councils.
Okay, so it doesn't have the split as an attachment to it or anything like that.
Will be provided to them at the same time that the agreement. Yes.
Right. Is it a good idea to provide our members with a copy of the SLA and that document for their respective councils so they know what's going in the councils?
Yes, so my intention was when it goes to the general managers, it will be circulated. You want it earlier?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that if you know the sections and how the roads was, because that has been attached or that's going with the agreement.
Yes.
Then that, at least seeing that may alleviate some of the questions. I'm happy to go with the question of how they would set, yes.
Put his mind at ease.
Thank you.
I'd say there's no better people to section out the roads that they'll be operating on than the staff, the organisation.
And that's what we've done. We've had, Chris has spoken with each of the biosecurity officers and they have started over the last 3 weeks discussing how the sector should look. We did discuss in the discussion paper that went out in November that we try and get an equal road or close to an equal road link. But through that discussion, it's been identified that some sectors have highways for the whole section, and highways are a lot larger than most of the other roads. So there is a bit of an imbalance in the sectors that have been designed because of that. So we had a look at how much time it took to actually do the spraying on some roads and took several factors into account. So I believe we've got a reasonable outcome, but one that is open, I think, to suggestions that it could change. We need to get to an outcome so I can offer them up to the councils. Now, we were going to propose that this is a discussion. We were going to say, here are the sectors. We have taken into account, Bruce, where we have sprayed in the last couple of years. And we've actually taken into account some of the roadside spraying that's conducted this year. We've really focused on becoming sector 1 in the first year of the new agreement to give us a real good kickstart to make sure we try, well, give ourselves a really good chance of getting through the whole first sector in year 1. There's been many matters considered. The staff have been consulted. I'm happy to share it with you as soon as it's finalised, which will be early next week. Whether or not, Mr. Chairman, you want us to hold this, sending it to councils before I have a response from the councils, I'll leave that to you.
What's the feeling, councillors?
I don't need to see it.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Maybe send it if we can delegate Councillor Reynolds to review and send his approval.
May I just state, Mr. Chair, the reason why, and even today, I drove on one of the roads in my shire coming to here and then drove through Bathurst Regional, sorry, Cabon, then Bathurst Regional Council. And that road in my shire has blackberries going berserk. As in, it's been a couple of years since we've sprayed it. So, and we've got really tall bushes. I'm just sort of one, and there is another road in my shire that I've again highlighted to the Chief Biosecurity Officer. That's in the south of my shire that again has got blackberries going crazy. I've got serrated tussock and challenges there as well. But I'm just sort of wondering how, that particular road, which is Victoria Road, as an example, and maybe year 3 before we get to it. So we've got another 2 years of bushes that are already massive before we even look at getting to roads like that. So I'm just sort of wondering how it's been set and whether, like the last 2 years, and I've had a look at the last 3 years in roadside spraying across the 4 LGAs. Last night I spent a couple of hours sort of perusing and having a look. And there's a lot of roads we've just never done, but a lot of them are shorter roads. So I'm just sort of, I don't know if the right word is curious, but also just how are you going to manage the rollout for the 3 years until we get to a 3-year program?
Yeah, and I think what Councillor Reynolds is also saying is there are high intensity roads which do always have a high destination. Program with that high stations, and have we done that? For instance, you know, there's roads like Triangle Flat Road, there are Eurobank roads.
We spent a lot of time, a lot of effort breaking this down and working through it with all the staff. Like we spent days and days sitting down with maps and history roads and working out chunks. We've tried to keep it geographically sort of in the one area too, because you don't want to spend huge time driving back and forth and not actually spraying, doing something. If you move away from trying to go back to jumping around, you defeat the purpose of going to the 3-year program in the first place. So, like, there are going to be some roads that aren't going to be hit until year 3, but if you hit them first, then you miss roads that were part of year 1 because you ran off to do. So, I suppose the map we could show. I could show Councillor Reynolds the map. Giving a visual of what's being done.
We'll let the process work so you can get into a pattern so that it actually works before the 4th year, 5th year, and 6th year.
And we've also taken into account high load. We've tried to spread the load of that between the different years. But we've also taken into account areas that were hit, like not so much including the heavy areas of infestation versus the lighter areas, but also taking into account access to those areas and the availability, the time taken to travel to and from those areas. So we've tried to combine all of those forces into busting these down. But I'm happy after me to show you the map and show you what we've got. That will hopefully put your mind.
And maybe the map could be, you know, circulated with the agreement when it goes to the councils, because problem we'll all get as members.
You get questions.
We get questions. So we need to know if and the reasoning behind how the areas were set. We've heard Chief Biosecurity Officers providers have tried to group the areas, you know, so for geographical ease of spraying, etc. Understand all that. But these are the facts we're going to need to know when we have to stand up in our council, when this goes to council, and answer the questions from our councillors.
I'll provide those documents with another sort of outline report about how we went about that to you.
Maybe
Before it goes, yeah. So if there's any violent objections, you can come back and we can have another discussion. But councillors, I don't think we'll get everyone in agreement about the selection. It's too difficult. It's just too difficult.
So my other suggestion is we don't want to hold up going to councils, not under the agreement of that the program. So I think that should go ahead if we can, even if
I'll send it to you in draft form Monday, and I'll be bereaved, and I'll ask you to come back to me by Wednesday next week. We'll see how we go from there. Thank you.
And consistent with that, and we deal with it later, as I'm assuming that the funding that we talked about, or we'll talk about later in the resolution, has all been agreed for the 3-year program.
Mr. Chairman,
Which is basically page 22 and
each of the councils have gone about that in different stages. Some have already brought forward money in their budgets this year, so they won't have any surprises whatsoever. Lithgow Council is the one that has got the most significant change. In conversation with the staff we've been talking to there, they believe that that is already considered in their budget, so they're going to join the program with a large contribution. The councils for their consideration, because we have based the service fee on the history of the last 4 years, and that's all we can base it on. Last 5 years, thanks, Chris. So the agreement's been written in such a way that I think we can deal with those transitions from the selected roads to this 3 sectors by the communication during the program. Because once we get the first year started, if the season is like we've had last time, a really good season, we'll know very early on in that program whether we're going to get the first sector done. So we'll start communicating with the council and talking about it. I'm trying to get the GMs on board to say there needs to be some flexibility in this because we're talking about seasonal adjustments.
And there could be dry periods when it actually is unwarranted.
I've had no objection from the general managers, but because the amounts of money we're talking about is not large amounts of money in the budget. Haven't got the same response. We're very seem to be stringent about the amount that we'll pay. The rest of it.
May I say, because of budgetary issues, the challenges, we're projecting a very large deficit, so.
All right. Thank you. All those in favour of any matters in progress? Okay. Fine.
Pretty bad on that Millthorpe Road. From the highway to Millthorpe.
Item 15, item 5, Chairman's minute. The recommendation is that the Serrated Classic Workshop is convened to review the current approach adopted by the County Council that's established along the Regional Strategic Weed Management Plan and the Central Tableland Local Land Service. Have a mover, please. Whether I move as a moving recommendation, second, please. Number 1, thank you. Gentlemen, there has been quite a bit of history with this. There is a current supplier who's indicated that they will or may be producing or providing, or they will be providing fluoropropanate between July and September. I understand currently it will be at a quite considerable price, 2.5 times what it was previously. If we thought the maximum volume will be 10 litres per container. There is some other information. I have actually spoken to Growers Choice, but I have asked them to confirm my notes of my conversation with them, and they haven't come back to me yet. So I can't disclose too much, but they've indicated that the veracity of the product will be excellent. It's purer than it was previously, and it's the means of producing it in China.
Chairman, can I comment on the minute as well?
Yes. So I think we are proposing the 4th of July 2023 for the workshop. And there's also consideration of the existing biosecurity zones under the Regional Strategic Weed Management Plan, whether they're appropriate. Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we brought the staff together to talk specifically about serrated tussock and what's occurring in the region. And that was a very productive meeting. So we do have a plan to actually bring a staff view to that workshop about their considerations and place those in front of you as a sort of kick-off point to get that conversation going. And the interesting to hear the responses up to that as well. So there's some information that we're preparing at the moment for that workshop. So I would encourage Mr. Chairman that your minute is picked up by the council, and hopefully the 14th of July is suitable. If not, could we have some discussion around when we can get that workshop underway?
Isn't that back to
That's quite appropriate.
Storming the Bastille. Any other comments? Member Reynolds?
while I won't divulge the retailer, I was speaking to a retailer in the last week with regard to flupropionate, and that they've been provided with a quote on pricing, etc. So they'd gone to their clients to actually have a chat about, you know, listen, this is what it's going to cost 2.5 times. And they've guesstimated or estimated up to $250 a hectare to boom spraying it to put it out at the correct rates. The response from the clients, they've got a fair few, was we'll only look at spot spraying, as in I don't think they had one client that said they were happy to put out fork out $250 a hectare for boom spraying of serrated tussock. So they were just looking at spot spraying, which a lot of them did. So this retailer has greatly reduced their order for the product. But it's an indication that we may have other challenges as a weeds authority down the track if landholders maintain large infestations that they're not going to control because the country is far less productive, or because it's just so heavily infested they're not going to get the returns back off that country. So some things that we should be considering, and again in this workshop, I won't progress it any further here today, but some of the things that we must consider as a local weeds authority, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and because of the new methods by which fluoropropionate is created, that is, I'm told, that is the reason that the price has gone up so extensively. And the only reason the price would come down significantly is if the old method of its creation could be restored. That is unlikely due to legislative issues in China, is what I'm told. If I can say that.
And so is it a health issues for the workers? Making it China.
One of the constituents is an explosive gas that creates a chemical. I can't go too much into details. And that is a bit of a no-no for environment and for safety, as I understand. I believe that product is banned in Australia. So I'm not absolutely certain as to the full legislative issues in China, as you'll appreciate, Leslie, but
oh, it's true. It's true. We can't expect the authorities in China to act in a way that authorities in Australia are not prepared to act.
That's right. So we are. What I'm trying to say is, I think that we have the product and what the constituents are and the way it's being created are probably there, and that's where we are, and that's due to the materials that are going into it. Yep. And as Member Reynolds has said, I think there's about 120,000 litres used worldwide, or was in 2020. So if the demand falls, then, you know, there's several reasons. If the demand falls too much,
About other council members, I'm for this chairman's minute.
good. But we've already had it moved and seconded. We're just having a vote. Do you want to vote on it?
Yeah, well, cool.
Is there any other comment? All right.
It's out of our control.
So
It's out of our control, so we just got to work with what we've got left as a byproduct. Value of that, and then the demand from the consumer will dictate the success of it.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's general manager, anyway, it's probably a matter of discussing the workshop. We're going into detail, we'll probably discuss it. It's only
That's right.
3 or 4 weeks ago, like, yeah.
12 o'clock, you're setting it for? 12 noon?
Yeah.
I was going to flag that as a potential issue, but I'll do that in the agenda later, but that's fine. 12 o'clock's just a challenge.
2:30 to 2 o'clock. Let's discuss that when we get to the meeting.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
Well, we can agree on the date, and let's get the workshop. All right, all in favour of the minutes? Thank you.
Aye.
Next one is governance program. Integrated planning and reporting guidelines. The recommendation is that council notes the report. Can I have a mover? Member Fry, Member Smith. Thank you. Discussion on the guidelines.
No,
We did the document.
We haven't.
We haven't yet. We have not. Okay, we have not exhibited the product, but the document on the website of non-compliance because we don't have a website at the moment. Yeah. So we note that as members, which,
yep, we note it.
all right, all in favour? Thanks. 6.2 is finance, the operational plan, delivery program and business activity strategic plan. Recommendation is the council adopt the 23-24 annual operational plan, the 4-year delivery program. The second part is that the council adopts the 23-24 by the 32-33 business activity strategic plan. For the mover, please. Member Smith, seconder, Member O'Connor. Discussion on this, gentlemen. Yes, Member Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm sure it was noted at the previous meeting when this was originally tabled that the long-term outlook currently is not great for the organisation. And again, it's not been put out in public domain, but the organisation probably got 12 months grace to try and look at pathways forward before we start potentially going into the red substantially. That we can potentially look at a couple of options of trying to make savings or increase our income or diversification or doing things which I know, again, the general manager, the chair and myself spent a fair bit of time looking at already, and there's plenty more to come. Or the other option, as Member Fry, I think, indicated at the last meeting, is that we actually look at whether we have a long-term future or whether we should look at other options such as winding up the county council. So something, again, that's not being discussed today, but it should be in the minds of the members that we have to, in the next 12 months, come up with a pathway forward. Otherwise, we will start seeing quite substantial losses for this organisation on an ongoing basis.
Well, it may be appropriate that there is we have a
deep dive into that.
workshop at the end of the year.
I think so.
Setting a date.
Yeah, potentially somewhere like, obviously, like you said, not desperate to have it, but like, yeah, if it's a quieter meeting or something like that, if we can log 90 minutes onto the start of that to have a proper discussion about a helicopter view of the organization. Ideas.
There's already a motion on the record. The general manager has certain requirements around that. And there was a reporting date for the end of September, so we'll be working toward that. If we don't make September, I'll be advising you and we'll have a get together before the end of the year to talk about those matters. Yes.
It's one of the parameters in the, as general manager said, performance reviews. Great. All right. Noted. So maybe if we can note, if we put a workshop later year on that subject. All right. All in favour of the recommendation, please. Thank you. So there's a late report that I have missed, which is 6.1.2, which is in front of you. It's the Central Tableland Weed Authority new logo and brand design. The recommendation of the council adopt the logo and brand design. And the second part is allow the general manager to make any minor changes to logo as necessary.
Happy to move.
I was waiting for it. I'll second.
Member Leslie, thank you. Discussion.
I'd like to ask Member Fry his thoughts, given that he works in this area, about how it will impact, how it stands out, how it's in the proposal?
Yeah, it's, we got, so I was working, as council knows, with, Lisa and Tim. Very loosely, part of my, non-replying of emails. And I apologise for that, but, we were served with a number of options and we felt, given the, I guess the homage that the shield and the tussock pat, plays to the old logo, and I'm talking prior to the current strip of colour that we have, that is not really a logo, but the logo prior to that had the tussock and the shield, and it actually had a pick and shovel too. So the idea behind that was the shield was paying a bit of homage to that history, because we know that we're not just changing, we're not just doing a new logo, we're changing the name of the whole organisation completely. And you don't want to lose that history and that feel of what the organisation was. You don't want to change the whole thing too quickly. The tussock in the middle, the only thing that I've just sort of started looking at, like they've provided it with some good context today on the equipment and on the clothing and stuff, so you can sort of get a sense of what it looks like. The only thing I would say is potentially inside the shield that a tussock is never symmetrical. But we could also lean on the fact that we could do one side of that particular grass or whatever you want to call it inside the shield to be, you know, quite
Like dead.
well, half of it dead, half of it promoting growth, because we are hopefully helping landholders make more productive acreages. And if that would show that kind of growth versus elimination contrast, it would also get rid of the symmetry that I don't love in that particular shield. But
Unfortunately, it could look like a piece of serrated tussock that's been partly sprayed.
And
One
then
side
partly not
is
sprayed.
but it's not.
there is that potential too.
I have seen pieces, I have seen some pieces of serrated tussock like that.
Resistant.
Yeah.
I think regardless, yeah. Look, I think it could be, I'm just not comfortable with total symmetry of result.
I'm just wondering, given heritage, do we need to bring the pick and shovel back on?
I said the same.
Stuff to kill it.
Yeah.
I still quite often use it.
I know, it works.
You would. That's why you're late all the time. No. I was dry, Chairman. So, no, well, I did suggest that. I suggested bringing the pick and the shovel back into it. The graphic designer came back to us and said it's probably good, starting to get a little too busy. And really on that, and on that advice, I think we said, you know, simple is good.
Someone can say, oh,
I do.
we are with the heritage organisation, not an organisation moving forward, really pushing for the control weeds.
Yeah.
I think we have to be careful with that. We are not a heritage.
Have you got?
Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I like the symmetry.
I do.
Yeah, it's simple, and the idea of the shield, you know, protection is, you know, it sends a message. So I'd certainly be quite, I mean, I like to look at that, so.
It deals with one weed, obviously it doesn't deal with blackweed or that, you know, but you have to do something.
Yeah, I think having a blackberry there would be, you'd be thinking, you know, what the hell?
The history of the organisation is it was formed to get rid of gas stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that basis, that was the foliage chosen, but yeah, look, you're happy with the symmetry. I think we
The African love grass could be Chilean native grass, could be serrated tussock, it could be anything you make it.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's if somebody takes it as grass, then it can happily be.
You're right, never tried, never said that's something.
I'll, the only feedback I have, I absolutely, now on a serious note, I think it's fantastic. I just think the old and the year of the shield needs to be reflected in all that, like getting the caps and shirts with one colour. I think the weed still needs to be split in that, and it does for me identify a solution to that
Could make it more costly.
You mean split the colour, yeah.
Transfer the colour over into the uniform, like if you look at the way you've got the.
So when they've done the monochrome, they've dropped the split
Makes
colour.
sense. So you can
Yeah, so
split
in
it.
like the ones on the side of the front, where it's got the.
Truck.
Perfect.
Oh, thinking, here we go.
They're talking about the weeds officer.
What's that?
Remember, are we now buying, Land Cruiser?
I noticed, Mr. Chair, no, well, as in, we, in the budget.
this motion, we've got land.
In the budget that we just passed, there was a capital component as well, Mr. Chair, and we will be going out to tender, so there'll be a Land Cruiser.
That'll be 5 years delivery though. The only thing I'd say, Councillor Smith, is that, yeah, it does increase the price of all of the merchandise and all that sort of stuff.
But it just reflects across all.
But if I get it, and maybe it's just a point of when we get to that stage of the rebrand, we just get the quote, if it's not anything much more.
I've got a question with the shield, it's more optical thing than the girls. With the shield split into the two colours, like the green and the brown. Would the shield was more like a shield, if the border of the shield is the one colour, but the flank side of the split? Absolutely, the two different ways. I don't like that. I like the dark stays. I like it. Because if you look at the one on the side of the truck, in my eye, you sort of lose that shield effect because it's the borders two different colours. I like it.
Yeah, I get that.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's the kind of thing that I suppose the delegation in the motion is giving the general manager to make that final call. Actually, or were you thinking the dark?
That's the question, I think, if you do that, you've got to make a decision as to whether it's all green or black, because we don't want to go to a third colour.
Chair, could I suggest green, for the simple reason that we're trying to get pastures, as in we're protecting, but we're also then trying to get pastures which are green, so we're killing out the weed and getting green pastures in and behind. I know we're probably getting technical, but
That's like, oh, yes, green.
This is the dark.
Remember, this is just photocopying.
Yeah.
etc.
So it's not black, it's actually a very dark, it's a browny green.
If you stayed with the dark on the shield, though, it would stand out more on whatever the background is.
Yeah.
And if you look at the logo, you've already got a lot of green right.
Oh,
You don't have much.
Could I?
All right, well, I think overall, if I can say, we're probably all
Just, just on a different issue, I like the agricultural brown. It reminds me of my time as an agricultural boarding school, which this was the colour we had. It was just constant, it was everywhere, and I liked it, but on the other point about it needing to be symmetrical, the Canadian flag with its maple leaf is not symmetrical. You know, it actually has different, because it's, well, have a look at it. It's not symmetrical, and all the points, add up to the number of provinces. So, little touches like that are quite valuable. And I like the idea of it not being symmetrical.
Me too.
Mind you, it's not symmetrical as it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose it is now. No, but on the whole, I think it's an excellent look. And I commend the artist who did it and the people who saw it.
All right, so on the basis that the general manager is going to make minor changes, as the second part of the resolution recommendation too. We all in agreement?
I just add one extra, I think, when the final draft comes, that maybe just throw past the chair and the deputy to make sure so the general manager's not stuck out there on a limb.
With one picture on it or something.
Just Tim's
shield.
in the shield.
You did a little copyright at the bottom.
Well, I was going to say I'll continue working with Lisa and Tim on it, but I don't know if you want to write that into the motion or not, but I'm happy to do that. And then, yeah, we'll refer to these guys once we come up.
I think, I'm sure it'll be communicated around.
Yes.
So you could be the bloke in the shirt.
Right, we're not running a modelling agency. Thank you. All right, all in favour of the recommendation in two parts. Thank you. We go back to the end 622 with the executive report, the 31st of May 2023. Have a minute, please. Ms. Smith, Ms. Fry, thank you. Investment positions set out there on page 17. Any commentary on this, Member Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Probably through to the business manager. As in the 1.488 million that we currently have in there. A couple of questions. Has the $40,000 that local land services gave to us and has to be returned, has that come out at any stage this financial year, or is that still in there?
Still in there.
And secondly, with regard to the serrated tussock aerial program, sorry, not serrated tussock, blackberry aerial program that we did, is there much of a discrepancy on outlays versus income at the moment, or is it fairly equal? I'm sure there's still some at the
what actually happened. I was only able to being able to finalise that Autumn 23 program due to a fair few issues throughout that one, particularly on the paperwork side. So I don't have a summary of it yet, but I do intend to bring it back to the August meeting.
The reason for my question, Mr. Chair, is we're actually in a pretty good financial position. If you look at the fourth quarter, and I know we're 1 month off the fourth quarter last year, given the amount of capital that we had to put out for 4 new vehicles, and I know we did get some trade in, but there was a large variation. And so I was just trying to distinguish if there was, as in the entity has actually had a lot of cash left over or profit from aerial or other things. But we can wait the extra month and then we will get a better idea of how we stand against the fourth quarter. But just be aware that we probably would have outlaid probably $140,000 for the changeover of those 4 vehicles. So looking at these figures, they're very raw figures, that we're actually trading quite well, and we still have a large amount of cash that it's in surprisingly a higher level of cash than what we've budgeted for, though we don't do a cash flow budget as such.
And it will be interesting to see what the results of the aerial program was, when we're actually positive. Right there. Or hopefully not negative. Okay, but we'll have that by August. Maybe if that's comes up at any stage earlier, if that maybe could be circulated with one of Jim's updates. If that's possible, just so we have, because I think we're all quite interested to know where we got to with that. Thank you. All right, all in favour of the investment report? Thank you. Item 7 is the aerial spraying program update. Just addressed. We've just done it, so we know the recommendation. Mover, Ms. Reynolds and Smith. All in favour? Item 8 is the roadside spraying program for 2022-23. It's the report, and the recommendation is council notes the report. Can we move it, please? In the prime member Watt, thank you. Discussion in this, or do we need a commentary from the new biosecurity?
Chris was speaking, but he's able to do that.
I've already put that through in 3 times. The Lithgow one's in Bathurst. The Bathurst one's in Lithgow.
Yeah, it's just the one we've got. Is that what you mean? Because we've got.
No,
GRAT.
Oh,
yeah,
right,
right,
yeah.
but then you've got Great Western Highway back.
No, because that's the Midgo section on the back of the side and the other section.
I think it's just this boundary.
So we're describing which chunks the great.
No, that makes sense.
Keep going. In the Hillsborough checks.
It does bloody great though, doesn't it? Great Western Highway.
So the Great Western Highway, Lithgow side.
It's all those big changes.
We'll have to change the name, take it the tunnels into the excellent Western Highway. Below us.
Where we get the tunnels on.
The bloody great Western
Have to
Highway.
wait for the next election for that.
Many elections.
Proposed one after that.
Right.
So,
By staff and the contractor. So that's the roads that were done under this year's program. And where we got to the event. You'll notice there's a couple of roads that will say the distance of something. Which means the road being marked up and then we're running out of funding to finish the rest of the road off. So that's them, and then at the end of this, there's a bit of a breakdown trying to give an average of how it's coming out. There is a typo in the second last table, some of the numbers there which were addressed, and we've got the correct numbers here around under there.
Sorry, this is the table, which one at the top?
somewhere in the 5 years.
There was a error or something.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I couldn't get the 351.14.
No, it was a yes. So that's them. So if we're looking at Bathurst on average, one on average, one average, another on average, that's where they're sort of coming up this year. And then we've got the 5 year average down the bottom of what the councils are roughly costing on average.
It was over on decline and all the others have increased in costing from 21, 22. Geographical.
Part geographical, partly we went back, last year we did Abercrombie Road.
Yeah.
And we got roughly halfway down the road. When we redid Abercrombie Road this year to finish off the half that hadn't been done, the contractors also dug down the bit that had been done last year and just touched that up. So that was a low cost, but I don't know, kilometre. So we sort of picked up.
Yeah, 71 kilometres.
Yeah, and we did like 40K last year, roughly, so that was a.
So if you're looking at the average cost, you'd be saying really for overall, it should be closer to 225 or 225 plus a few dollars. So you're probably looking at $230 really, rather than 169.
You'd be closer to that 200.
And is that bank, and when you did your 3-year rotational spray program costing in the next table?
No, we worked on the what physically been done. We don't have to store figures, we want to show what was actually undertaken. In other council areas, there would be some roads that have been partly touched up in the year before as well. So we're trying to keep everything.
Okay, so we think that those figures for each of those councils are realistic.
They will be realistic. There will obviously factors that will come into that may shift it a little bit. Will obviously be wage increases, not just for staff, but for contractors. If anything moves that way, obviously chemical will play a little bit of a part in it too, as cost of chemical fluctuate as well. But what we can go with is what's prices we know now and what's being done in the like working off the averages.
Can I ask a question? You may not be able to answer this, but if we look at the roads we do over our whole up in the quarry area or Central Tablelands, Wing Authority area, how much chemical do we use on Tussie? Just interested.
To the
know,
milliliter.
that could have any major impact
To the
on
milliliter,
our
please.
pricing. So maybe we should hold that, but when we have our workshop, maybe you should have that up your sleeve, because that will be a consideration we will have to take account, because if we've got a 2.5 times increase in the pricing of our fluoropropionate, it's closer to really sort of. Well, yes, I know there's a lot of it, but yes, but that we need to factor that into it and look at these things in that light. Okay, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, just a question for the Chief Biosecurity Officer, please. Oh, another way of phrasing that would be what % of the weeds that you spray on the roadside are, say, blackberries? Is it 80 or 90%? Or
chemical usage, but you have to go back a few years to normally have a product, sort of work it out more accurately.
yeah,
But we would greater volume of chemical on the wood weeds than what we use on the grass weeds.
yeah,
So if you look at the volume of chemical that's used, but then at the same time, you're using a lot lower concentration chemical, like per litre per tank in the grass weeds, but chemicals costing you
yeah.
twice as much, so.
Can you spray both at the same time?
But
you
you
tend
run
not to.
into issues in the two chemicals can react with each other.
No, sorry, I didn't mean the tanks, I meant,
Oh, yeah.
I meant different brews on the same.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so what they'll tend to do is, if they're doing a road, they'll generally have a weed mix in the tank. They'll, when we've got access to granules, or what the guys have been doing is, taking a knapsack with the grass.
Right, it's just a spot spray.
Yeah, so that if they come across a little patch, they can just hit it while they're there. If they come into a big patch, what they'll tend to do is finish off what they're doing with that load or that section of the road, then mix up a big batch and come back. But they also carry the granules or like a knapsack to try and put it in the gas. So,
Sorry, and one more question, please, Chairman. It's forecast that we've obviously had a couple of fantastic years, that it's going to be dry. What's your feeling on what impact that's likely to have? It would restrict the amount of time you can spray, wouldn't it? And
it'll give us an advantage in that we can probably start potentially earlier because we can not get stuck on the side of the road, which is what we have a problem with this year, is getting started. It'll be an advantage in that you won't have as much other growth, which means finding it'll be a lot easier. But then at the same time, it's a disadvantage in that because you'll have less competition there, you'll have a greater chance of weeds getting hold as well. So it's
And there may be a part of the summer it gets non-feasible to spray because it's just too dry.
it's too dry, and you become stressed.
the plants are stressed a little
Like
bit.
we all do, that's it.
But you can still spray Serrata, can't you?
No,
Even if
you've got to have 100 mils of rain after you spray it within 3 months to activate it, to activate it.
it's going to have.
Otherwise it dissipates. It disappears. It's like if you get too much rain, it leaches.
Yeah.
You've got to get that sweet spot. Yeah.
I've personally had fun when we've sprayed and we didn't have 100 mils of rain and it didn't work.
And then I've had patches where I've sprayed and got pretty much too quick and
Leash it out.
you leach it and then you got to come back around.
Okay, no, so.
Members, right?
I have two pieces of feedback. One, I'll start with the negative one, that we received last week in Hill End. Probably goes to the point of the methodology taken to do it. And a member of the public there was just quizzing as to the blokes on the side of the road. This is at a Bathurst Council meeting, and it's a lot harder to explain to people the differentiation between Upper Macquarie and then explaining that entity. Sometimes if you're in a The other one was, and that was semi-recently apparently, but I'm not 100% sure of when you guys have been out there. But the other one was a positive feedback from Fremantle Road that I've received. And again, in the light of thanks Bathurst Council for getting out and about your spraying. And again, I was in a quick format, so you didn't explain the difference, but I took the compliment on board, and they were saying that they were very diligent in the way that they're on the side of the road, very safe operators, etc. Is in a very high regard of the actual roadside sprayers. I just want to make sure that compliment fed through to the correct organisation rather than me just going, thanks very much. Yeah.
Hey.
But that was a while ago, the Fremantle one.
The Fremantle one.
Yeah.
Fremantle was the last road. Sorry, was the last one of the last later roads to get finished off
Right.
in the Bathurst program.
Yep.
Since we're talking about, briefly touched on the workshop, the other option is, maybe as part of that, you could also discuss whether the ability to use glyphosate for the tussock with grass seeds and what implications would be if we did that.
We've done that this year because we just didn't have the product. But obviously that then caused other issues. So yeah. So when the first one was
The comment was more around spraying trees.
And that's what I think he said,
And
that
that's
there
what
might have been some leaching onto gum trees or something, some overspray.
Well, we had an incident over, we had a councillor comment that we were spraying the trees. When we investigated, we actually found it was the trees being sprayed by the essential energy to stop them growing up.
That's-
That's what I
So
was- you want to be careful that you get it right, because that was.
it's not me getting it wrong or right, I'm passing on a piece of information from the public and you can do with it as you see fit, but.
yeah. We do have the free maintenance underneath the line issue.
Yeah.
Quite a lot, not
Yeah.
just in Bathurst, over on, we get a lot of big go to.
Right,
People see one of our trucks going down the side of the road. A little while later, they see a whole lot of dead suckers,
yeah,
and when you go back out and investigate and you're in country energy, you then see roll power lines
yeah, right.
straight over.
And there are a few, and they generally straddle the road in Hill End Road,
That makes
because
sense.
that's the only passable kind of path up to Hill End.
I'm not saying that was it, but.
No, but that's good to know, because then I can use that as a potential explanation on the spot, rather than saying, I'll pass your feedback on carte blanche. But I'm not trying to qualify the complaint, but I'll be able to do that in the future. Struthy was there, I thought we'd just pass it on.
Well, the person who's speaking to you can gather it themselves.
So I was just going to say, the comment was made from, as a representation from council was, if you have any concerns, please contact us more question and Chris.
Yeah,
Which was the return line. He said, oh, that's great, we'll do. I don't think he was too worried about it. I think it was just a very broad comment, and I was a little bit complex because he was sort of one stage talking about a broom, like a big arm just goes along the straight side of the road. And then the road, what I've seen, the action, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
That's right. So I was sort of one of those things I was going to circle back.
Yeah. In terms of the time frame, looking at roughly when orders were placed for work to be undertaken, looks like Hill End in the Baptist area was roughly halfway. Give or take a bit for the program, gives a rough time frame when it would have been done.
halfway, as in,
I'd have to look at the actual final records to work it
oh
out.
no, he was talking within the last month.
He was talking within the last month,
So, well, there you go.
because it was freshly born.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then, the other thing that you're referring to, Andrew, is on the road surface, a lot of that's to do with protecting the road, so they don't get under it. And
Yeah.
dislodge the
Yeah,
road.
they do just carte blanche kill
Yeah,
everything.
and they tend not to discriminate
Yeah,
quite so much.
yeah. All right, well, take the compliment.
Yeah.
And potentially not the feedback.
Mr. Reynolds?
Chair, two things. One, Blaney doesn't. We do slashing, which could potentially spread weeds, and I have brought it up with the rural fire service in my other hat on. at which they come back at me and go, well, come up with a better solution then. But the question through to the Chief Biosecurity Officer, Mr. Chair, have you had any discussions with Cadia Valley Operations with regard to roadside spraying of particularly sticky nightshade and potential financial assistance that I've been offered? So I'm just wondering if the Chief Biosecurity Officer had any discussions.
Touch base with them and partly through the regional committee, because they've got that project running. The one that you're aware of, at the moment. We've flagged the idea and we're hopefully going to talk to them more about it at the next meeting, which is coming up later. This end of the month. See if we can, you know, they're a little late, but we're trying to ask the question and see if we can find out there if they'll help with that sort of things.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I was assured that they would look, but probably at a 50-50 basis. And I'm not quite sure whether it included contractor and chemical or just chemical.
So do we have the contact there?
I was talking with Melissa O'Brien, but she suggested I speak. I think at the ladies and Alison. I think I'll find it. Come back to the Chief Biosecurity Officer, but she's in charge of that program, and they've got several $1 million, I think, or a couple of $1 million over.
Tim contacted?
I've already given Tim from the general manager some contact details in the past, so he's aware of it.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just more asking if we've had communication, but the conversation I had a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Chair, was that they were interested in potentially supporting, and even though they'd given out the money, they said they could probably bring forward money or find money for the roadside because of the pathway.
Well, I suggest if they're not being proactive on it, we need to be proactive, so maybe we need to make the approach.
But I'd also suggest if there are blackberries or serrated tussock, whether they're willing to sort of look at the three and coming on the 50-50 basis, we will extend Laney Council's. I'm only talking about Laney Council here, but as in roadside funding, if there was another partner covering part of the cost of doing it.
It's all correct me if I'm wrong, isn't this the chemical we're currently using is the same as the active?
Yeah, it's the same. Basically the same mix.
We're using a different weather.
Ideally, you use a volume of weather and you run the rate slightly higher.
Which is not going to affect, we're just going to. All right, so maybe when general manager and chief biosecurity officer, we need to make the approach to stadium. And with that in mind. Okay. All those in favour of the recommendation in relation to the roadside spraying program. Move to item 9.1, the biosecurity compliance inspections, May 2023. Recommendation in the council notes report. Can I have a member, please? Member Smith, Member Fry, thank you. Discussion in relation to this. I'll make a couple of comments. We note that, so on the re-inspections, we're basically getting 60%, basically not fixing things up, those terms of the residual of high risks in the re-inspection category. That's higher than normal, isn't it? We usually have better compliance normally, haven't we? So that's to note. We need to look at that. Obviously on the first inspections, 50-50, slightly higher low risk. The point I think to note is noting where we are with the season, the 137 properties beyond the 90 days of their compliance date. I know I'm not referring in detail to the confidential, but on the figures only. Are we in a position to rectify that during winter, or do we actually need to actually see the blackberry, whether it's going to regrow, or what? Can I ask through you, the general manager or the chief biosecurity officer comment on that? How we can, are we like to pull that number back?
Yeah, so You're right, some plants are more difficult to identify when they're doing it than others. Yeah, that's one of the issues to try and work through. We are aware of this number increasing, and we're working towards a solution to try and pull that number back in. We all know the factors that have got us there in the first place, and I don't think we need to go back over them again. The staff are aware of it, that this number is increasing, and the importance of trying to pull that back as well. What we've got now is all the weeds officers are focusing on the re-inspections, because there are other tasks that have pulled them away from re-inspections are sort of completed now, so hopefully we can try and charge through that. At present, we've got all the staff out just focusing on re-inspections. The other thing we're doing at the moment is all our road re-inspection at the moment. We've got our program assistant focusing on doing the roadsides, to try and lighten the load on the inspectors so they can focus solely on the re-inspections and not get tied up trying to pick off the roads. The other thing we've done is, as you guys are aware, we're down on staff member at the moment, so that's having an impact. But what we've done is we've assigned one of the other officers to try and help with the re-inspections in that area. So he's trying to spread his time between his current location and the with that. So that's where we're trying to get ahead on it and try to pull it back in again. The other thing we're considering, did you want to mention the other team, or you haven't mentioned it?
No, keep going.
The other thing we're considering, but there's a lot of pros and cons to it, is if we look at casual employee, but we've got to look at short-term benefit versus long-term consequences of bringing someone in. So that needs to be considered as well. So we're looking at different options on how we can try and pull this back in. Our focus at the moment is just everyone on those re-inspections.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. What are the long-term downsides of a casual employee? Is what we were referring to there. I presume just in general. It's not a specific.
No, that's right. Having someone re-inspect, and we've got to get them up to speed on what's changed with the computer systems and that. If we bring someone back that was previously here, so that takes time. The other thing is, if you get someone to re-inspect, but then isn't there to do a follow-up.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, that answers.
Other person trying to look at something that they never saw, and the consistency, and they're looking at where they can go back and re-inspect.
Helping an experienced person roadside spraying rather than inspections. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Investment in skill. You're going to lose that skill real quick, and then consistency through a re-inspection.
Consistency.
Is the financial.
Things like blackberries, if they were sprayed late in the season in May, it's going to be, in some cases, quite hard to see. It would be really tricky to know if they've been sprayed or not. I sprayed some in May, and you think, well, I know I sprayed them, I'm pretty sure they'll die, but if you looked at them, you wouldn't think they're sprayed. So that's one part of the reason for the question.
Good way is eating the berry and then just sitting down and seeing what happens.
But it depends what they're spraying too, like if they hit it with late season versus if they hit it with Metso, like, sorry.
No, it's right.
That's when you pick the raison, but not the metsulfuron.
Yeah.
Just my taste.
Well, even with raisins, you're not picking it.
Just make it high. Very high.
If you die, it's been sprayed.
Sorry, never else.
My question is with regard to first inspections. I notice a very high level, 414 of the 557 were low. And now I assume some were because of neighbours, as in 143, but should the organisation, given the resources and the time, be potentially looking at trying to target higher prevalence areas, as in, for example, for the roadside, etc., or is there another reason why probably close to 3/4 are low risk that were done as first inspections in the last 12 months or 11 months?
I thought we had a policy to target.
We did take-
Well, I thought,
But I think part of that would be that if you've got one bad place and you're doing a re-inspection on that or put medium, you put a couple of clean ones around it to show that it's affecting,
Biosecurity.
the impact of having as such.
effectively, fish where the fish are, but 14 of the 30 were high risk in the first inspection, so we are fishing, but it'd be nice to have that sort of 60 or 70% versus 47%, I suppose. I don't know, is that the answer?
No, sorry, we're looking at the table. This
This
is
is go to the second.
on page 24.
One, sorry.
The second, it's the last row before we get into the.
Gotcha. Total, yep.
So I think,
Same.
Reynolds, correct me if I'm wrong, you're referring to 557, 1539, the first inspections, which 143 were high risk and 414 were low risk. We're meant to be targeting, properties that we know are bad. Yes, we have this thing about if we do one, we'll do a couple rounds to show that there's a lot of security risk, but this seems slightly,
It seems
it's memory is slightly out of proportion.
Yeah, it does seem.
So
Bring it back to last month.
Is that, look at it, because,
If our focus is on the dirty, right, sections.
So could I also just suggest for future reference, I suggest this to all my students that I mark, with financial tables that actually label the table. So table 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So that in the report, we know what type, just so there's the confusion just then. That I was talking about table X, but there's no.
It still comes back to relevant though, because that breaks it down to last month, so it shows the proportion is growing last month, but on a total, it's coming back to your conversation, so it is still relevant to the conversation, like 47% last month were high risk, so the ratio was correct last month. However, on the total, we're still out of proportion.
About 25%.
Yeah, so it still is relevant, but I agree with the table comment.
So I'm suggesting, I'm just suggesting. Yeah. And that shows it's a red and it's gone down, it goes to correctly orange.
Red, pink, orange.
Red, pink, yeah, that's right. But at least it shows us what inspected, because I think some of them say, well, some of these areas around here, because our knowledge might need inspections or something. So maybe I've got to do that in August meeting or in time for the workshop, I don't mind. Or if you want to make a second item on the workshop, I don't know. Well, yeah. Depending if you haven't got time. All right. Any other comments on this report? I have all in favour of the biosecurity compliance inspections May 2023 report. Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. Penalty infringement notices 9.2. The recommendation is that council notes the report. Move please, member Watt, member Pride. So we've increased by what, 3 or 4 from last meeting? And we've got less than half have been paid, is that right? And of the 24 owing, how long have they been owing for? I know there's a debt recovery. Okay.
We've had some loss of license people knocking on our door, so it's still having effect there.
Oh, have they?
So well, it didn't measure.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
No other comments?
Member Reynolds.
Only very quickly, Mr. Chair, you mentioned an extra 3. I think given the amount of extensions, etc., and the increase in the numbers that aren't compliant, suppose through to the general manager, are we looking at starting to actually increase it? It's been sitting around the 80s, I think, for pretty well this financial year.
Well, that's why I'm getting it, because the last time I think it was 86. At some stage, this is gonna have to go off, because there were a lot of the review last time.
Yeah, the inspection work is been delayed and now we're out there doing the inspection, so yes. We'll see the results.
Yay.
All of is that correct?
Let's don't forget to put that 127 in the backlog, so that's gonna be, there's gonna be quite a few in there, I imagine there will be.
Well, if we went on the basic figures, there should be, the figures should be more than 60%, yeah, 60%. We're gonna be looking at,
But don't forget that there could be. If people are in that bunch that are doing the work and heading in the right direction, they receive an extension and they get penalised for the work.
We've got two court elects for the penalty infringement notices very recently been written. So that's a different approach to the court. It's we've previously had prosecutions where we've had guilty pleas when they get to court. This is the flip of that. So we have to prove our case in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Why we raise the penalty infringement notice.
Oh, so they've elected to take it to court rather than pay it.
Yes.
Has that ever happened?
So this is the first real test of our systems, which is
so which courts have been?
local court, and will be represented by Mac and Mac, which been briefed and court notice has just been sent out, so there'll be, I suspect, 4 or 6 weeks before they actually get to the courtroom.
Is it? Oh, I suppose we don't know why.
Without really
Sorry.
names, but what is the police?
Sorry, could I suggest that we note that part, maybe it could be dealt with in confidential anymore. Thank you. I don't want someone to get with identities or anything before. Reynolds. Extensive report. I might ask the Chief Fire Security Officer, just any further comments on the report that's been put up?
My comment is that there's been some information gleaned from that travel that we'll utilise during the workshop. And I think having the staff attend was of real value to us. And I think having our staff talk with the South Coast people would be of value for them as well.
Yeah.
So a good exercise. Chris, anything to add to your
I would just say that that's well worth, and yeah, it's developed a lot of discussion for tonight years and
Windy, cold, horrible place, isn't that down there?
Yeah, it's out there in the breeze, isn't it?
So do you think,
I just want to reinforce the last sentence, the benefits of the tour and subsequent communications cannot be overstated. You and CC will be looking for opportunities to participate in future tours. I cannot reinforce that more. To me, in my industry, you'll be in your role and you'll have what we call store blinds. We've got our own patch, we service our own weeds. You just don't know what's coming on next door, and then you don't know different ways of doing things. So whatever the budget's available for these tours, I absolutely encourage it, and I think it's critical.
I was actually going to make some comment that no doubt there was some, you've learned some new methodologies and other things. We'll certainly discuss them, and obviously, are you going to be putting that in a paper for the workshop or just presenting only to the workshop?
By paper, by the looks of it.
Because looking through this, I gather that you picked up and maybe some potential new strategies to assist with. Does it or not?
I'll say also ideas, and I think talking between the different staff members, some they would agree with and some they. So I think it's more of a discussion.
Okay, so but you'll be raising the ball and saying this is what we think, yes, is a positive, this we're not so certain because of this.
And that's a lot of the discussions we've been having here ourselves, that things talking about before,
Yes.
and the different thoughts and ideas, has really opened up the whole can of looking outside the box and different ways to address them.
But you're going to give us at the workshop, you'll be giving us in greater detail the benefits of what you've learned and what you've, and the different views. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So is it going to be a full presentation or just a discussion? Anyway, I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, we haven't done the agenda up yet, but the staff view will be made clear to the councillors about what we think going forward are the best strategies for serrated tussock in our patch.
Okay.
Could I suggest we might glean some new strategies or methodologies from this afternoon's site visit to the pastures we'll be visiting to see their weed management.
Thank you. Can I have everyone, Ben Moreno, sorry.
I suggest in the extension of staff, the GM may have a update. The State Weeds Conference is in Dubbo in 52 days, 4 hours and 34 minutes. According to their clock.
Countdown time for a weeds conference.
Are we looking at sending 1 or 2 staff members, and also are we looking at sending a councillor or member? Sorry.
I did not know that members would normally attend, I'm sorry, but we've been very active in booking staff, and I've also to try and get you in if anyone wants to show a hand there.
What day is it?
Just, it's over 3 days.
7th to 10th, but I think the 7th is a sort of a dinner.
7th or 10th of what month?
August.
Well, given our tight budget, should we get constituent councils to try and fund that?
Yeah, I think that's.
The registration for the sideline meetings could be handled through this office, but constituent councils could potentially.
That's to support that. I was going to say, myself personally, I think it'd be more beneficial if we had staff members attend, so that meant
Yes.
a staff member attend. Rather
We've already
than
registered
a member.
staff.
Yeah, it makes sense. I see more beneficial to the actual grassroots problem.
Yeah.
Than a member attending, but if we can get constituent councils to fund that, I'm happy to support the member attending.
Well, and it'd just be on the basis of you representing that constituent council and registered as so, but at the same time, as you're a delegate of this council, you're kind of representing both in a way. Yeah.
So we have that split logo.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, could we have a look at the agenda of the conference? Yeah,
We'll get the agenda to you.
There are field trips and other things as part of it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I've got the working joke in front of me.
I imagine the registration is not.
You flick it.
I'm surprised at the size of the.
Are we down to 38 minutes now?
32 minutes,
We'll just say 10 minutes to it.
clicking on.
Right, that sounds good.
All right, all those for? All right, all in favour of the report. Going to the item 10.1 County Council meeting schedule. The recommendation is council adopts the proposed meeting schedule. Member Smith, are you moving it or proposing the amendment?
No, I'm happy to move it. I just want to make a comment.
And I'll second it.
Right, were you moving it? You're seconding it. Member Smith, member Fry, but I thought you were proposing an amendment. So if you.
No, I'm happy to go with the majority, like obviously in discussion. 12 o'clock personally is a challenge for me. However, if I have the ability to potentially teams in, I'm happy to do that, but I don't want to be one person representing all of us. So I just want to open the conversation.
2 o'clock.
Look, I threw 12 o'clock at it because it's a time in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Open to wherever you want to go with that.
If it's 14th of July, I also prefer to.
It's also, yeah.
Yeah, if the majority says it that way, if the majority says 12 o'clock, I'll support
I
that.
prefer to.
Yeah, I'm 2.
I'm comfortable with that.
I'm over with 2.
So I'll make it 2.
Missed calls in this meeting.
15th September workshop, do we also want to make that 2?
I wanted to, as in a flag, that we may potentially have to have a special meeting because of the financials. As in, so I'm just, as in, be aware that we may have to have a meeting at 2 o'clock as a proposed,
On the 14th of July.
yes. September, 15th of September.
I think.
So, yes, as in, I'm just flagging there's the potential, so depending when the financials are done.
I think on the comments, we put the workshop at 2 o'clock, but if we have to have a meeting, it'll be 12 o'clock.
Well, there's plenty of notice,
Yeah, that's right. We got a bit of notice of that. You happy with it?
as long as the majority's happy.
Okay,
All right, noting those amendments, we all, can I have all in favour of that motion, recommendation? Thank you. Notice the motion or decisions, there's nothing. Can I have someone
I'll move we move to the confidential.
to move it to the confidential? Thank you, Member Smith, Member Leslie, can we see? Does anyone let us? So the results of the confidential meeting were item 12, prosecution update. Council notes the update on prosecutions provided as reported. That was moved by
It was by you and member Bright.
Member McKibben, Member Fry. Item 13, which was the weed biosecurity property inspection of May 2023. The record moved by council. The council notes the report. And the mover for that was Member Smith. And item 14, which was the Upper Macquarie Council as matters in progress and update engagement report. The report was noted. Member O'Connor and
Leslie.
Member Leslie, thank you. I declare the meeting closed at
We need to accept that.
2:09 PM. The next meeting is
Should we-
going to be held on.
Don't have to.
We don't. On the next meeting will be held on 11th of August 2023 at 2 PM with a workshop on 20th of July 2023.
Yeah, confidentially read them out and then move them.